Rephidim is an oasis in this area. And like I said, this river came across like this, but the water wasn't any good. And in that area, there was Mount Horeb is located approximately right here. And over in this area, right in here, there was a large depressed area like this. And the distance across this area is approximately 13 miles. And this way is approximately 8 miles. And it drops from the surrounding mountains that are around it. The height of these mountains are probably a plus 280 to 350 feet from the ground level, and the depression then goes down probably a minus 12 to a minus 15 feet. And so it's just like a big swimming pool type thing, except it's natural. It's natural dirt, rock, and whatever. We don't know what caused it. The speculation is that many, many years ago, into the thousands of years ago, there was a meteorite that struck there and caused the indentation. Very well may have been. There's iron ore all over the place in there. And there was and this distance here is approximately 13 miles. Now, connecting this detention is a very large swell that goes all the way down into this area and connects to the oasis. Then there's another swell that connects into a smaller one that connects into this one. And from the top of Horeb, you can look down into this area, and it's, in fact, you look throughout the whole area. And what the people were complaining about is that the water was no good. And every place you went, whether you sent scouts out to Horeb, whether you went north, whether you went south, wherever you went, there was no water. There was no supply of water that you could use. Now, these Israelites, who had seen the miracle of the crossing of the Red Sea, who had seen the miracle of turning bitter water to good water not long afterwards, who had just experienced and were continuing to experience the miracle of the manna that's provided for them daily, now are saying, God, are you with us or not? If you really loved us, if you were really leading us, if you really were in control, why did you bring us here? If you are leading us, didn't you realize there wasn't any water here? Didn't you realize that the water that was here was no good? And that wherever we went, in any direction we went, there was nothing? And you led us here anyway? Why? We certainly do not understand that. And then it got to the point to where Moses feared for his life, because they were quite upset, to say the least, to the point that they took their wrath out upon their connection to this God, which was Moses. Then the Lord told Moses to, you separate yourself from the people, take the elders with you, and go for a walk. And what they did, they went for a walk up this natural swell for 13 miles until they got to this indentation place, right in the center, this area. And Paul and I have been there a number of times. there's a huge rock. And the rock is part of a meteorite. And this rock is probably at least 15, 20 feet tall and spread out probably as large as a football field. And it's just sitting there. Now, presently, you're not allowed to go to it. And the reason for that is that you used to be able to go there as a tourist and view it and to see the rock. But in World War I, there was a man from Belgium was so taken back by the evidence of this great miracle of God that he claimed it as his own. The British were still, the British were still in control of the area, and Belgium was an ally of Britain at that time, and he was an officer in the Belgian army, and so he just kind of assumed and presumed a lot of things, and the presumption that he made was that this is nothing but just desert area. This area is no good, so I'll just stake a claim to this. And he decided that he was going to mark this stone in this area for himself, and so that he could recognize it from a plane from above. He tried to paint it blue. And he got about half of it painted, and the British discovered what he was doing, and of course they arrested him, and he was put in prison and died in prison in 1937. But you can still see a lot of the blue on that rock now. And so from that point on, the British restricted anyone from going there, any visitors going, and now the Egyptians do the same thing. You can't go there unless through special governmental permission, which we had when we viewed it. But well, I wasn't going to say that. We snuck in there, but they did find out that they did give their approval, but it was after we was already there and back. They said, well, since you're still alive, because there is a lot of terrorists in that area, since you're still alive, we'll go ahead and give you permission then. So, but anyway, Moses went down this swell with the elders, and the elders stayed in this area, and Moses went up to the rock where God was standing. And then the miracle took place. Moses struck the rock, and I was looking in my Bible because I have it written down. According to the Egyptian records, the water went up in a geyser 6 dafs high. And a daf is an ancient Egyptian method of measurement, kind of like feet and inches. And 1 daf is equal to 5 feet. So 6 dafs meant that the water squirted up 30 feet in the air. And it continued to do so for for a long time, to the point that this entire area filled up with water. And it filled up to not only to the level of the ground, but actually went up into the sides of the hills and the mountains that went all the way around. And it was one of the largest reservoirs of fresh water of the ancient world in that region. And the water was pure, and it was cold and very nice. And it was certainly enough to feed or to service 4 million or 12 million. It didn't matter. There was enough water for everything and everybody. And the word got out about this great miracle. And the Amalekites, who were over in Saudi Arabia, they said, we want that water. And so they came to try to confiscate it, and that's when Joshua defeated them in battle at the same place. And then Moses was with and Aaron on the mountain, looking down on the battle that was taking place in the oasis itself, and Joshua defeated them. But it was enough water to not only for them to meet their needs, and they stayed there in that area for about 9 months, and it met all their needs plus anything that they would want to carry with them in storage. And it remained such. I don't know if the geyser went that high forever, but it continued to supply water not only for the lake that it caused, but also it rejuvenated the river that was originally going through there, and made that water brand new. No more sulfur, no more salt, and that's why that Rephaim oasis today is one of the most pleasant in all the Sinai Desert. And like I said, Paul and I stayed there. We spent the night, a couple of nights there. It's beautiful, beautiful there. And it's because of this refreshing. And it continued to flow. The water continued to make a difference in that region up until the Islamic invasion of the year 640 AD. And so this originally took place at approximately 1534 BC. And then in 640 AD, right on the beginning of the Islamic invasion of Egypt, in which Egypt then changed from Christian to Muslim, there was a great earthquake in this area. And when the earthquake took place, it sealed up the water. And eventually, since that time, all of it has evaporated and so forth. And so you can still see where the lake was. You can still see what the water has done to the rock in carving out places where the water was flowing and that type of thing. So it's quite inspirational. But unfortunately, when the Islamic invasion took place, then for some reason God shut off the water. And since then, that area that was so beautiful and lush is all but dried up, and nothing is left of any greenery except in the oasis itself, just in Rephaim. But what I want to point out to you is that the people, they initially blamed God, then they blamed Moses, and they blamed God again. And the last sentence that we read in verse number 7, is the Lord among us, or is he not? Now, that place is still called Mesha stone, or blue rock now, but it's still the same word, Mesha. In our own lives, how many times do we say, Lord, are you here or not? Are you in this? Are you directing us or not? Even though, if we would just stop and think back to all of the good things that he's done in our life, all the times he's healed us, all the times he's worked out financial miracles on our behalf, all the time he's come to the rescue of our children, all the times that he's protected us through absolute sure injury, but yet we escaped. When we're up against it, when there is no water, so to speak, no hope of getting beyond this point, we seem to forget about God's deliverance from our Red Seas and the deliverance from our enemies who were chasing us. And some of the first things we either say verbally or think in our head is, God, where are you? Are you still with me or not? Are you here or not? If you knew that this was going to take place and this was going to happen, why did you lead us here? God, it just don't make no sense. We have found ourselves over the last 35 years in missions work many times. And we would say, Lord, if you knew this was going to take place, why didn't you get us out of here? Why didn't you move in such a way that we wouldn't have to go through all of this garbage? If you really loved us, then why are we starving to death, so to speak? Why do we have no refreshing? Why do we have no answer? Why do we have no direction? The only thing we see in all directions is torment, of horror, and dissatisfaction, and no direction whatsoever. God, don't you care? Are you with us or not? And then in the midst of that, God never did talk to Moses and say, it's okay, my son. I'll work everything out for you. There's never an indication that Moses got a comforting hand from his brother Aaron or from or from anyone else. Not a comfort from Miriam, his sister, from no one. And not even from God. God did not come to him and say, Moses, you've done a great job. You've led these millions of people. You've listened to me, and I'm proud of what you've done. In the very midst of it, Moses cried to the Lord, what do you want me to do? I've done everything for you. What more can I do? I got to get a lozenge. Is that all right? Excuse me. So in the midst of that, when he was perhaps fully expecting some type of comfort, fully expecting God to give him some type of direction just to prevent from being killed by stoning, then God spoke. And this is what he said. Take your leadership and go walk north. And go up to this rock that's up there. And I'll meet you up there. Real words of comfort, wasn't it? And what is going to a rock going to do to help quench the thirst of these people who are going to cut my head off? What kind of comfort is that? And what type of an assurance is God giving with this? Go to the rock. And then when you get to that rock, now this is the kicker. When you get to that rock, I want you to hit it with your stick. I would not make a good Moses, because I might have just said, "You've got to be kidding me. You mean of all the things that you could tell me to give me some assurance, you want me to go hit a rock with my rod?" But Moses did it. And when he did, one of the greatest miracles ever recorded in the Word of God and in history took place. Because out of that rock, we don't know where the water came from. Obviously, it was underground someplace. But how it made it up through the rock, we don't know. And they never did find out. There were many, many, many attempts, especially by the British, to find out how it happened. They never found out. In our lives, I'm sure that there have been times in your life, and maybe you're going through it right now. You feel, God, if you're in control, why did you bring me here? Why am I at this stage in my life? Why am I here not knowing where to go, how to turn, having problems with Congressman Omar, personal attacks. And we were discussing it, and Paula says this, "Well, the Lord has been impressing upon me to pray for her." And I didn't question her. I don't ever question her about what God tells her to do. But to me, I said, "Lord, I'm glad you didn't tell me to pray for her." Because I wouldn't. And I would have just left my stick behind and not hit that rock, because it's just not logical. But when you do what God says, then the rock splits. And life's water came up. And she feels that as she prays for her, her hard heart is going to be broken, and the life-giving water of salvation is going to come into her life, which will be the greater miracle. And so, in your life, in your situation, God knows it, God understands it, God sympathizes with it, but don't be surprised if He asks you to do something that's totally illogical. But if you do it, it will work.
Welcome to Canaan, a small indigenous community here on the west coast of Colombia. In recent years, Canaan has grown tremendously. The people here have a heart for God and for sharing His love. This is where the Cubit Foundation does their work. Over the years, Cubit has worked on developing the community in many ways, and by doing so, they've developed personal relationships and bonds that will last a lifetime.
Cuando viene cualquier persona del extranjero, pues lo recibimos con mucho amor, recibimos con mucho aprecio, con mucho afecto, porque sabiendo que si esta persona vive tan lejos, no nos conoce y nos viene a visitar, eso para nosotros es muy satisfactorio y toca mi corazón de una manera especial.
Brad Charles is one of the leaders behind Cubit and their work in Canaan, Colombia. His passion is for helping people in need around the world and doing God's work out here on the mission field. The Cubit Foundation has done some incredible work here thus far, and God's presence is truly evident. Through partnerships with local Colombian churches, Cubit has taken part in service to the village of Canaan. And with your help, Cubit will continue to serve them and many more around the world.
When people give to Cubit, I want them to go. I want them to go with me. And I want them to experience this.
Lo imposible para el hombre es posible para Dios.
To find out more and to become a part of what Cubit is doing here in Colombia, log on to cubitfoundation.org. That's cubitfoundation.org.